5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Ignition. Liftoff.
Hey, what is up guys? Welcome to MB Tech Talk and my name's Matt. In this video I'll be revisiting a GlobalProtect Portal and Gateway configuration on a VM-Series next generation firewall running PanOS 10.0.6. Okay, so this will be a more stripped back version of my previous GlobalProtect video, which provides more of an overview of GlobalProtect and also includes a configuration of an internal gateway and internal host detection. I wanted to create a GlobalProtect video on PanOS 10 and keep it as basic as possible with the aim of getting a GlobalProtect Portal and Gateway up and running efficiently. I will then use this configuration as a baseline for future GlobalProtect videos. So that being said, let's jump into the configuration. Okay, so I've logged into the firewall. We need to go to the device tab and we need to go to certificates, and we're going to generate a new certificate signing request. So click generate and we're going to give the certificate a name. So I'm just going to call it GlobalProtect GW Portal. Now, because we're going to be hosting the portal and the gateway on the same firewall, they both share the same external IP, which is 192.168.21.250. So there's no reason why we need two separate certificates, but in a production environment, you may want to split the portal and the gateway certificate up. Then we're going to complete a certificate signing request using the Windows 2016 certificate server. So this is going to be an external authority CSR, and then we're going to hit generate. And as you can see, the certificate's pending. So we're going to click the checkbox and we're going to export the certificate. Then we're going to open it, and then we're going to copy the contents. And then I'm going to browse to the certificate server, which is 10.4.4.100, and it's cert serve. So I'm going to log in as administrator. I found using administrator the best way to do this because you get all the options in the web enrollment interface. So we need to add a password. Then we need to request a new certificate, advanced certificate request, and then we're just going to copy and paste the contents into that box, and then we're going to choose subordinate certificate authority, and then we're going to click submit, and then we're going to check base 64 encoded and then download the certificate. And we go back to the firewall, and then what I do is just open it up, copy the name so that when we import the certificate in, you can name it exactly the same because it needs to match, and then browse to that certnew.cer file and then open. Click OK. So the certificate's valid now. Next thing we need to do is create a SSL TLS service profile. So this is going to be used in the portal and gateway configuration for server authentication. So we're going to click add, and I'm just going to give it the same name, which is GlobalProtect Gateway Portal, and then we're going to select that certificate that we just generated and got it and had signed, and then I'm going to change the minimum version to TLS version 1.2 and then click OK. So that's the certificate side of things done. We can move on to the network configuration. So let's head over to the network tab, and then we're going to go to zones. So it's best practice to terminate the tunnel on its own zone, so we can then enforce policies between the GlobalProtect zones and other zones on the firewall. So what we need to do is click add, and we're just going to call this GlobalProtect. And this is going to be a layer 3 zone, and then we're going to enable user identification, and then we're going to click OK. Next, we're going to create a tunnel interface. So let's click on interface and then tunnel and then click add. I'm just going to use tunnel 2. So tunnel 2, and then we're going to assign it to the existing virtual router, so VR1, and then we're going to assign it to the new GlobalProtect zone and then click OK. Now we can go and create a GlobalProtect gateway. So staying in the network tab, we go over to gateways and then we're going to click add. And we're going to give the gateway a name, so MB Tech Gateway. And then we're going to associate the entrust interface, so 1/1 and also the IPv4 IP address. And then we need to go into the authentication, and then we're going to choose the SSL TLS service profile that we created, which has the certificate inside. Then we need to provide some client authentication. So I'm just going to call this GP Gateway Auth. And we're going to leave OS at any. And we're going to need to create a new authentication profile. So I'm going to call this GlobalProtect LDAP Auth, because I'm going to use an LDAP server profile. So Active Directory essentially. And then we're going to change type to LDAP, and then we're going to choose an existing LDAP profile, and then in advance the allow list we're going to click add. I'm just going to allow everyone, so all, and then click OK, and then click OK on that. Okay, next we go to the agent tab, and then underneath tunnel settings we're going to enable tunnel mode. And then we're going to select the tunnel interface that we're using to terminate the GlobalProtect tunnel, which is assigned to the GlobalProtect zone. We're going to keep the enable IPsec tick box checked. If it's not checked, then it will default back to SSL, but this is recommended, so IPsec is recommended for GlobalProtect. Then we're going to go into the client settings, and we're just going to create a basic configuration here just to get things working. We're not going to go into any of the advanced config selection criteria. So I'm just going to give this a name, MB Tech Security Team. We're not doing anything with authentication override, just IP pools here. This is where we're going to assign these users an IP pool. So if we click add, and then we're going to use 172.16.3.0/24, and we're not using anything else in here. So this is just a basic configuration just to get things going. Click OK, and then in the network services we're going to set the primary DNS. So this is going to be the AD server, so 10.4.4.100. And then we're going to use Google's DNS as a secondary. So that's all the gateway configuration we need for this video. As I said at the beginning of the video, we'll go into the more advanced configuration in subsequent videos. So we can just click OK here. Okay, so we can move on to the portal configuration. So if we click on portals, click add, and we're going to give it a name, so MB Tech Portal. Select the interface, so 1/1 and the IP address which is associated with that entrust interface, and then we can click on the authentication tab. We're going to choose the SSL TLS series profile that we used in the gateway configuration, because the certificate is shared between the portal and the gateway because it uses the same IP address. Then we need to configure some client authentication, so we're going to call this GP Portal Auth. And the authentication profile, we can use the existing LDAP auth we used earlier, and we can click OK on that. Then if we go to the agent, This is essentially the configurations that get pushed down to the GlobalProtect app when users first connect. So you can have multiple configurations based on users, groups, teams. So, for example, a security team, a IT help desk team, or HR, finance, etc. So we're just going to create one for the MB Tech security team. We're not going to delve into the config selection criteria or the internal gateways, but we do need to specify the gateway that these users would connect to. So I'm going to click add, and we're going to give it a name, which is MB Tech Gateway. And we're going to use the IP address of the gateway. So that's 192.168.21.250. And the source region will be any. And then click OK. And then in the app tab, this is essentially the settings that users can interact with in the GlobalProtect app. So you can enable, disable things, you may not want them to change settings. So in my lab, I like to change it from user logger always on to on demand so that I have control over the connection. And then we click OK. And then finally, in the trusted root CA, we add the root CA from the firewall, and we get it and we install it in the local root certificate store. So essentially, when the GlobalProtect app connects to the portal, it will deploy these certificates to the client. So it's recommended that you do this, and any intermediary certificates that are required, add them all in here and they get pushed down. So we just click OK there. So that's the portal configuration finished. So at this stage, we have all the necessary GlobalProtect components configured. We just need to configure the correct security and NAT policies to allow GlobalProtect access. So what we're going to do is go to the policies tab, and we're going to create a security rule that allows the GlobalProtect app to connect to the portal and gateway. So let's call this GlobalProtect infrastructure. And the source is going to be the untrust, because that's where users are going to be based, and destination is going to be untrust, because that's the IP address, that's where the IP address resides on the Ethernet 1/1. Application, we're going to add the GlobalProtect app, which is Palo Alto GlobalProtect, and that's got a dependency on SSL, so we can add that to the current rule. Service is going to be application default, and then we're going to allow it, and then we're going to click OK. Then we're going to move that rule just below the block rule, the deny rule, so this becomes rule number 2. Then we're going to create a security policy to allow GlobalProtect users to access internal resources. So GP users to internal resource. Source is going to be the GlobalProtect zone. The destination is going to be DC, DMZ, and users. Application at this stage, we're just going to leave it as any, and then service is application default, and then we click OK. And then we can put that underneath the GlobalProtect infrastructure. And then what we're going to do is change the general internet access rule that currently only has DC and users in. We want to put the GlobalProtect zone in there as well, so it allows them out to the internet once they connect in. So add the GlobalProtect zone and click OK. And then finally, we've got a NAT policy, a source NAT, and which is NATing these zones out to the external interface. We need to include the GlobalProtect zone in there as well. So we need to add GlobalProtect and then OK. So that's all the security policies configured now. So all we need to do is just click on commit, and then we can test. Before we move on, I just want to make you aware that the Windows 10 Lab client has already been joined to the mbtech.local domain and has a root CA in its trusted root certificate store. So before moving this client onto the internet connection, you need to make sure this has been done. Otherwise, when you attempt to connect to the portal and the gateway, you're going to get a certificate error. So just have this in mind and you shouldn't have any issues. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is change the networking on the Windows 10 client, because currently it's connected to the inside of the firewall. So we want to turn this into essentially a machine out on the internet. So what we're going to do is go into VMware Workstation and we're going to change the settings. So we're going to settings and then we're going to go to the network adapter and we're going to change this from VMnet 3 to the VM-0 auto bridged network, which actually goes to the physical network, and then we're going to click OK. And we're going to go into the control panel and change the network settings. So we're going to change the IP address. And then we're going to go into properties and we're going to change this to DHCP and then click OK. So hopefully we should be able to see this go to the home internet network, which it has. So if I click on that now, we can see that it's got a 192.168.21.10 address, and if you remember, the outside interface of the firewall is 192.168.21.250. So what we're going to be able to do now is open up a browser and browse to the portal to be able to download the software, the GlobalProtect app. So if we go to https 192.168.21.250 and go to advanced and then proceed, and then we're given a user logon. So I'm going to log in with mbtechadmin and my password. Then we get the ability to download the GlobalProtect agent. So on Windows 64-bit OS, we can wait for that to download. And once it's downloaded, we just run the MSI and go through the installer. And then we'll close it. As you can see, the agent's installed. We can now put the gateway IP address, which is 192.168.21.250. And now it's asking for a username and password. And we're connected. So that was a successful installation of GlobalProtect using a VM-Series firewall hosting both a GlobalProtect Portal and Gateway. So that's worked out great. So let's just go back to the firewall web UI and we can have a look at the logs, because with as of I think 9.1 you get the advanced GlobalProtect login. So if we go to the monitor tab and then we go to GlobalProtect, you can see that I'm logged in as mbtech admin and I'm connected to the mbtech gateway, and I've been given a 172.16.3.1, and you can see that I'm connecting from the Windows 10 Lab client. Okay, so that's all done. I'm happy with the result. I will see you on the next video. Thanks. Okay guys, that's it for today's video. Thanks for watching. Over the next coming weeks, I will be uploading more videos where I will be sharing more content about Palo Alto firewall features and technologies and how to configure them. If you like this video, I'm sure you know what to do by now, but just in case you don't, please hit that like button below and share with your friends, and be sure to hit that subscribe button and the bell to get notified every single time I post a new video. If you have any ideas of video content you want me to create, please put them in the comments below, as I would love to hear your feedback on any aspect of my channel. Please keep watching, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks.